My name is Jerome Ferry. My cameraman is Alan Eggers. We're doing a video interview with Manya Zlatohlavek and Maria Hanson.
Vera.
Vera Hanson, I'm sorry, Vera Hanson. Two sisters who immigrated to America from Czechoslovakia with their folks when they were very little girls. Manya, tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in Kolín, Czechoslovakia. And the date? January 22nd, 1915.
What was your dad's name?
His name was František Frank Machovsky. And my mother's name was Marie Vacek Machovsky.
And Vera, you were born how many years after Manya?
2.5 years. I was born on July 2nd, 1917.
Do you have any memories at all of, you probably don't, of Czechoslovakia?
Not,
As a
well,
little
I
girl.
think the only memories I have is hearing my parents talk about it. I don't think actual memories of my own.
What was your dad's occupation?
Well, mainly he was a gymnastics instructor and a competitor in gymnastics also, and he was also a locksmith. And after the war, he was professor of gymnastics in Kolín.
Was he, when you talk about gymnastics, are you talking about Sokol?
Yes.
Was this a something people were very active in his country in?
Yes, there's very many units, Sokol units in the United States and all over the world. There's some in
Australia and
Yugoslavia
Canada.
and places like that.
And did he compete internationally?
Yes. First time he competed, he was a member of the gymnastic team that got first place. And 2 years later, I believe, he was the coach when they traveled here in the United States.
You can.
No, you can't.
This picture we're looking at, Manya, where there's hundreds and hundreds of gymnasts, would this been, this couldn't have been locally, it must have been from all over the world?
Yes, it's from all over the world. And what was I going to say?
I was going to say they have these festivals every 4 years in Prague. That was before the Nazis banned them. And the Sokol units from all over the world took part. These were calisthenics. They had the exhibition of calisthenics.
And they were all doing it in unison?
Yes.
And the Czech name for Prague is Praha, Praha.
In the picture right down there below, he is being presented with a trophy. Would that gentleman have been somebody in the government that was presenting him that large trophy?
From Czechoslovakia. I don't know what his position was, but he was somebody really important anyway.
And then the photograph down below, it was your dad along with 6 or 7 other Sokol gymnasts.
Yeah, that's a team that traveled to the United States.
Before we get too far down the line, we had a couple of neat pictures of you girls with your mother in your hometown. We're looking at a picture here of your 2 girls with your mother. And which one is the one with the big bow in her hair?
That's Manya.
That's me. But yeah, I always had a bow, even when I went to school.
How old do you suppose you were in that photograph?
Oh, gee.
3 maybe?
Probably.
Probably 3.5, because I think I must have been probably 1 year old. I really don't know.
And this was in Kolín?
Yes, We had where we lived, we had a kitchen and 1 bedroom. And yeah, and my folks had their bed on one end and we had it on the other end. And I used to fall out of bed, then I'd go over and wake my mother up and tell her I fell out of bed.
These 2 photographs we're looking at, the first one would have been a typical house in Kolín where there's two women
Yes.
standing outside?
Well, I think so, uh-huh.
It was sort of like an apartment around like a little patio, and then there were different units around it. And my grandparents lived in the rear, and we lived in the front, one of the front apartments.
There was a kind of courtyard in the back, and my grandparents, they had a couple of geese, didn't they? Because we used to watch them when they fed them.
In the other photograph there, it looks like possibly this was after the war, after it was bombed.
Yeah, you've been telling about that one from Yerka.
My cousin took the pictures. He sent us a number of pictures. They raided Colleen because there was a oil refinery there. So they raided that and destroyed the refineries.
Did people, this sounds like a dumb question, but some of the European countries would keep livestock in the house. This wasn't so in Colin.
No.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Was your dad ever caught up in an army over there in Germany or Austria or any place?
He had a fight in the Austrian army.
He had to fight? Did he have a choice?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
At what time period would this have been?
What is that?
What time period would have this been, in early 1900s or?
I remember in that one article that this man wrote, my parents were in Russia. He was teaching in Russia, in Vilna, and at that time it was Russian. And they went home back to Colleen for vacation, and at the time war broke out, so he had to join the army then. That was 1914.
Did he have to stay in the army for very long, or was he able to get out?
That I don't know. I think he stayed probably until
the end, probably.
Czechoslovakia was freed from Austria.
That was in 1918, wasn't it, when they got their freedom?
Do you, Manya, do you have any memories of Colin, the neighborhood, or?
Well, not too many.
Did you start school?
Yes, I went to first grade there, and the boys were in a separate class and girls in another class. That it wasn't together.
Let's talk about some of your childhood memories. Do you remember, was there running water or electricity or anything?
I'm sure we had electricity, but I don't
Yeah.
recall about the water.
Did you have a bathtub?
Yes, and I often wondered how we got rid of the water out of the bathtub. It was a wooden one. Do you remember that in the kitchen?
I thought it was a tin one, like one of those big tin ones.
How about a cooking stove? Did your mother have a cooking stove?
I imagine, yeah. But I don't remember what kind it was or anything.
Do you ever remember, did she go to the market daily to get meals for that day?
I don't know how often, but I know one time I went with her, and they didn't wrap things like bread. They just gave you had to go with the basket, and they just put the bread in the basket. And I know one time my mother bought some radishes, and I was eating one on the walking home, and a dog jumped on my shoulder and took the radish from me, and since then I was so afraid of dogs. And then when we moved here, when I went to first grade, there was a colored gal in my class, and I don't know how she found out I was afraid of dogs, so she'd always walk me home. She'd put her arm around me and walk me home, so I wouldn't be so afraid. And then later on, I used to meet her downtown, and we'd have lunch together. And years later, when I was in the hospital, she was a head nurse on one of the floors at St. Luke's, and she came down and gave me a back rub. So that was right from first grade till adulthood.
Do you remember your grandparents?
Oh yeah, my grandfather was a shoemaker. He made shoes, and they just lived across the courtyard from us.
Would Colin, would that have been be called a village or a city, or?
It was a city.
A city?
Because that very famous
Band leader.
František Kmoch, he lived there. A very famous person.
Do you remember what you played for games as a little girl? Vera probably wouldn't remember, but you.
All I remember was I had kind of a
A
wheel.
hoop, wasn't it?
A hoop, I guess. And we hit it with our hands and chased it down the street.
And that's about all you had for toys.
We had dolls.
Did you have dolls?
Oh, yes.
We just had one, didn't we? That was about all.
I don't remember, but I suppose.
Could you remember a Christmas tree at Christmas time?
Yes, and I remember when I didn't believe in Santa Claus anymore because one time around Christmas time, in the corner of our kitchen, there was something covered with a blanket, and I peeked under there, and it was a doll buggy with a doll in it. So I knew that my folks bought it.
It ruined your Christmas.
Yes.
And you felt bad.
I don't know whether I felt bad or not, but I was glad to get the
You was
doll.
happy.
Yeah.
Could you expect to get much for presents as a little girl?
No. Even when we came here, we always had to divide with everything. It was a big deal when my folks got us a package of writing paper. Remember, it was yellow, so we had to divide that. And we
The
had to
big
divide.
chief tablets and those little pink and green little pads. That was a big thrill.
You were telling me a story about the angel and the devil.
Yeah, they came to visit, and if you were good, you got a good, what was it, nuts and apples and
Apples
things.
or fruit
And if you were bad, you got some coal from the devil.
Christmas Eve, do you remember Christmas Eves? Would you, were your church, or folks church-going people?
No,
No.
no. It was, how was that? When my dad was during the war, everything changed for him.
Do you remember any traditions on New Year's Eve, like a traditional dish? A lot of Czech people remember having carp.
Carp, yeah.
But that was Christmas Eve, wasn't it? A
Yeah,
Christmas
Christmas
Eve
Eve.
Christmas
meal.
Eve. Mhm.
And
But Christmas Day was a goose, roast goose with raised dumplings
and sauerkraut.
Do you
and
remember?
strudel.
And you were telling me about potato salad
Oh,
you had with the carp, and
yeah, that's right.
It was a
little-
hot potato salad, like they have it now too, but not as often. But just the potatoes were hot, and the dressing wasn't.
We didn't
like-
have any dressing.
No,
all
it was more like vinegar dressing
and a little bit of melted lard and chopped up dill pickle and an apple in it.
it sounds like a little like a German potato salad.
Yes.
Could be.
Hot or warm.
Uh-huh.
And did your mother raise her goose that
No.
she had? No.
But our grandmother did. She had 2 geese there, but
Did
whether
we
she
get
ever
one
killed them,
over?
I don't know.
Did your mother work?
Well, at home she was a dressmaker.
Seamstress.
Yeah, seamstress. I couldn't think of that word.
Do you remember any gypsies traveling through the country in Kolin?
I think so. We were
Bands of
afraid of them.
gypsies?
We were always
We were
afraid of them, that they were
afraid,
going to
yeah.
kidnap us.
Your folks would tell you to be careful, or
I remember when one thing I remember, the landlady lived across the hall from us, and I liked to go over there because she had a big mirror, and I'd always look in there. And she told me, if I keep looking in the mirror, I'm gonna. How did she say that? I'm gonna get scared and die. She used to scare me like that, so I wouldn't look in that mirror anymore.
She was an old maiden lady.
let's talk about coming to America. How was it that your dad come about having the opportunity or wanting to come to America?
You want to tell them about that? The
Well,
first
in
time he came?
1921, he was here with the team, and they were.
Or he was here before, in
Yes, in
1919.
1909, but it was in 1921 when they traveled around the United States, and in Cedar Rapids there was a Sokol unit, and they asked him to come here for 3 years to teach the Sokols here. So then he came back, and the next year we came here.
Why was he asked? Was he highly recognized by this
Oh
time?
yes, He was here with the gymnastics team. That they had demonstrations, of different
Exhibitions.
Exhibitions.
Well, the first time he was a member of the team, the national team, and the next time he went, he was their coach. And they did exhibitions all through the United States. They were even guests of, was it President Harding?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They performed at the White House.
Did they have a headquarters here in the United States?
In Chicago, yes.
And this was, I think you told me this was 1921.
Well, that was when he came here the second time. But in 1909, when he came the first time, the Sokol units were already started here also.
And then he had returned home,
Yes.
and he received a letter.
Well, evidently, when he was here in Cedar Rapids, they made arrangements for him to come.
Yeah, there's a letter about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they give him a position as a
Head instructor here.
and then, of course, by this time your dad was as an international champion. He was recognized as an international champion. Tell us about your memories about the boat trip that you come over on. Do you remember what the name of the ship was?
SS St. Paul, and it was making its last trip across the ocean. But we
left Hamburg, Germany.
and they
Yes.
washed our hair with that kerosene, with
Kerosene?
kerosene, yeah. So in case we had head lice.
Did we delouse you or
Yeah, he lost us. It
Do you remember how many days it took?
was about 10 days, wasn't it?
11 days. 11
And
days.
I was
My
sis-
mother had made a little note just on a little small piece of paper. She had written this note. We left Hamburg, Germany, and a certain, right there, that note there. We left.
this one?
And and we arrived in Cedar Rapids the 22nd of September in 1922. And I think she says on there, did it say how many days it took? 11 days. 11 days.
And of course, this picture here is you two girls with your folks. Was there anything on the boat for little girls to do? How did you occupy yourself for 11 days?
I was seasick most of the time. And so we got locked in the library, didn't we, that time? And I don't know how come.
I don't either. But in the afternoon, they'd have these deck chairs, where you'd lounge, and then I don't know if they call them stewards. These men would come with tea and ginger snaps for an afternoon snack. They'd serve us on the deck.
Do you, would you have been, you probably wouldn't have been in steerage. Your dad
no.
probably could afford to travel a little higher class.
I think it was called third class at the time, but it was comfortable, I guess.
And your folks and yourselves, but could probably speak nothing but Czech.
That's right.
Yeah. Was it scary leaving all of your friends and all of your toys, or don't you ever recall it bothering you?
Well, we figured we'd be back, I guess. So at that young age, it really didn't make that much difference.
Whatever
I guess.
your folks said was okay.
Yeah.
Did that terrify you, being locked in the library?
I suppose it did. I remember pounding on the door, and I don't know how come we got locked in.
We probably did.
Did you have any other children to play with on the
I
deck?
don't remember.
Yes.
Did we?
On that one, that little Jewish girl, remember her?
I don't
She and her mother made friends with us, and what we did, I don't know, but evidently we became friends.
Did your mother, like nowadays, they take way more clothes than they're ever going to need for the trip? Do you remember having different changes of outfits on board
Not
ship?
too many, no, and my mother made all our clothes.
But I remember on the train coming evidently from New York, somebody stole our clothes on the train. I don't know did we have a berth? I think so.
I don't know.
I remember that they stole some of our clothes.
Do you remember your mother packing a large basket of food to take on board the boat?
I remember we had some Swiss cheese, didn't we, on the boat?
That I don't remember.
She used to sit in a deck chair and slice off a piece for us.
Did you ever eat in the big dining room on the boat?
I think so,
Yeah.
because my dad always had sardines, and I thought, well, if they're that good, I'll try them, and they didn't agree with me.
Didn't agree.
No.
When you got sick like that, did you just go to the railing, or?
I remember that. I spent a lot of time at the railing there.
And imagine the boat was big enough that your folks didn't have to worry about you constantly as far as getting too close to the railing as little girls, or?
I don't imagine there.
But it looked to me like it was an open spaces there
Yeah.
between the rail and that lower portion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it was secured.
And where did you come into the United States? What harbor or what port?
First into Ellis Island,
Do you remember seeing the Statue of Liberty?
yes. And I remember one meal at Ellis Island was mutton, and it was cold and strong tasting, and to this day none of our family can eat lamb. And then when we were checking out, my dad was told we wouldn't have had to be detained at Ellis Island because he had a job promised in the United States.
That they had evidently misplaced the papers that they received to let us through. So
They had to hold you over a
yes,
while?
several days we stayed there.
Did you have to submit to any examinations? Do you remember that?
We probably did.
I
I suppose
faintly remember.
just like all the other immigrants.
And how did you get to Cedar Rapids? A train, I imagine?
Yes.
And of course, your dad knew where he's going to go.
Yes.
He was coming to be a teacher.
I remember.
This photograph we're looking up here, this is the Sokol that the building that your father come to. Yeah. What was the purpose of Sokol?
Well,
Am I pronouncing that right, Sokol?
the motto is a sound mind in a healthy body. And the Circle organization is over 100 years old. And it's gymnastics for everybody, not just to make champions out of individuals, but everybody has a chance to work up to the best of their ability if they want to.
Did a lot of the Czech people in Cedar Rapids, did they belong to the Sokol?
A lot of them do. Yes, I don't know.
This probably would have been a great way for them to socialize.
Right, because there weren't so many other activities going on. So that was a popular place.
And do you remember where your first home was?
My first what?
Your first home, your folks, is where they lived when they first come? Did they have
Yes, it was an
apartment?
upstairs apartment. And everything, it was furnished, but
Hand-me-downs.
yeah. And I know the first Christmas, evidently somebody told my folks that you could hire a Santa Claus from Killian's department store. And so Santa Claus came over. I don't know about you, but I remember I got scared. I crawled under the bed. I didn't want to have anything to do with him.
What did you call Santa Claus in Czechoslovakia, in Kolin?
Mikuláš. And another thing, on the dining room table, there's a bowl of fruit and bananas, and we never saw a banana before. So we peel it and take a bite, put it back. Later on, we try to like it, and we take another bite. And
Did you skin it?
yeah, we knew enough to do that.
Where,
Remember that about the bananas? We didn't.
Yeah, vaguely, not too much.
where was this apartment when you think back now? Where was it?
On 8th Avenue Southwest.
It's
And
not
there was
there
a-
anymore. They when they put the I-380 through there, they demolished it.
And there was a drugstore across from the apartment. And remember, the Crowley girls, a couple of girls took us over there, bought us an ice cream cone, and we didn't know what to do with it. We just held it until they started licking it. So it ran down our hands, of course, because in Czechoslovakia you didn't have ice cream cones. They just had ice cream parlors that you were served on a plate or a bowl.
I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was going to ask. Oh, do you remember the name of the drugstore?
No, I don't.
Too long ago.
No, I don't, not at
No,
all.
but I remember there was a grocery store at the end of the block, and my dad, pop in Czech is soda, or like soda. So he sent us there for soda, and the man gave us baking soda, and we didn't. So we went over to some people across the street. They were Czech, and the lady took us over there, and then we got the right thing.
So, and where did you start school then?
Taylor School.
Did you have to start over in first
Oh
grade?
yeah, I had to take another year of first grade, so I was a year behind, and I couldn't speak English, of course.
Okay.
And remember the principal? She learned to sing the Czech anthem, and because you used to cry,
Oh,
and
I
she'd
cried
come
every day.
over and sing to her, and she'd cry all the more. And also, when I had those big bows in my hair, a girl sat behind me, and she'd always pull it untied because she knew I couldn't tattle on her because I couldn't speak English. Remember Brecha?
Oh, yes.
Was Taylor School pretty much Czech, or was there other nationalities that you remember that
I don't remember.
you don't remember?
But there were quite a number of children that didn't speak English also.
Hispanics, Black Americans?
No, just Czech.
Just Czech?
Czech. Well, the others evidently we just didn't know about.
And then what was the next school you went to?
Hayes, when we moved. That was Hayes, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, Hayes School.
on Southwest Side. And then Wilson and Grant. We graduated from Grant High School.
Did you ever go to the Czech school?
Oh, yes. Every Saturday, it was a Saturday and Sunday, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Then I taught Czech school 2 years.
And you went there to become proficient in English then? Did you help your folks learn English, or?
Well,
My mother, I don't know where she got the material, but she was studying so she could become a citizen, but she never finished.
Your memories of the stores, do you remember any stores on 16th Avenue when you were little kids that?
Oh, yes, Beeples, Meat Market, and there was a,
and Anthony's grocery store, Laurie Anthony.
and Novotny's,
Oh, those twins.
the tavern on the corner was Novotny's, yeah, and they had two boys, twins, they were in my class.
And the bakery, Modern Bakery, and Sikora's too.
You don't recall a Turacek's grocery store, do you, right on the corner?
Turacek?
Turacek.
Alma.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember her dad having a grocery store right on the corner of C?
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember that, but we never went there. We went to Vavra's. There was a Vavra grocery store across the street.
When you think back now, was there Czech events going on, like Hobie Days,
No, we didn't have Hobie Days then, did we?
St.
No.
Joseph's Day? Did they celebrate St. Joseph's Day, or?
No, but there were a lot of Czech plays. And there used to be an old, not Strand, was it Olympic Theater on 3rd Street and 12th Avenue. They used to
Yeah.
have Czech films there.
And then New Year's they always had a program at the Sokol Hall. My father always put it together, and some kits and just entertainment for New Year's Eve.
Were your folks very active in the community?
Oh, yeah, very active in
Your-
the Czech community, uh-huh.
Your mother also?
Yes, uh-huh.
Were you girls more or less born into Sokol?
Yeah, that was a way of life for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And your life's probably centered around it, really, as far as
Oh, yes.
Sokol activities and.
And then then we also helped my father teach classes.
And let's back up, girls. When I asked you if you had went to the Czech school, I was always under the impression that Czech school, taught you how to speak English, but it did not, did it?
No, it was, you tell
They taught us good grammar, and they taught us songs.
In the Czech language?
Oh, yes, And because most of the children were Czech anyway, but it was just, I guess, perfecting our Czech, and then we'd have a little play at the end of the season, and it was just regular classes.
And what you learned there, did it carry over throughout your lifetime as far as speaking Czech fluently?
Evidently, because we still speak Czech.
Both of you still speak it very
Yes.
fluently?
Well, my
Yeah.
parents never learned to speak English, so we spoke Czech at home.
And then when I worked for Western Fraternal Association, we had to write letters in Czech because some of the lodges were still speaking Czech.
This photo of this old automobile, it looks like you two girls and your mother.
The Maxwell.
The Maxwell.
And it had the side curtains. If it rained, you put up these side curtains. They had the isinglass little windows in them, and it was, I think, canvas. You just snapped them onto the frame, and
And then they cracked. We each had a whole blanket up on by the window.
What time period was this? What year, possibly?
well, I remember some of our pictures are dated 1925.
You had mentioned this was in Michigan, or you're on your way to Michigan?
New Buffalo, Michigan. It was on Lake Michigan, and I remember going on the Lincoln Highway to Chicago, and we'd get stuck in the mud, in deep muddy ruts. And I remember one time something happened to the car, and my father had to walk in the rain to this little town and get new pistons to put in the car.
Why was your dad? Did he teach for a while in Michigan, or?
It was a monthly course for
From the
future
national
instructors,
center.
and so from all over the country they would attend the course. And we
This picture, Manya, I assume this is you in this very attractive costume.
And it's, well, a long time ago, it was over 100 years old. My mother used to sew clothes for a woman, and she couldn't pay her, so she'd give her a piece of the costume each time until we had the whole costume put together.
Did your dad ever return to Europe for performances?
Yes, he did. In 1926, he went with the team, and every 4 years they had the sled in this. They call it probably a festival or whatever. They had the mass calisthenics, and they had the competition in gymnastics, and so he went over there with the team at that time.
And then would these teams still come from throughout Europe?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You were telling me about you also were in the 1932 at the time of the Olympics. You performed with the Sokols.
Yes,
You want
and
to tell us about
a
that?
demonstration
It
calisthenics.
wasn't competition, though.
No,
not
it was just a
Olympic
demonstration. They had what was it, something, a festival of nations or something, I don't remember what it was called, but different countries put on different performances. And the Sokols received a standing ovation. Everybody cheered, they got up and cheered and hollered and whistled, and everybody just thought that was the best performance they had seen.
Where was this held?
That was in Los Angeles.
How did you get out there?
We drove. 5 days it took us.
The national office sent my dad there, and there were people from Japan and China and other countries
Mexico.
performing, and they announced over the loudspeaker that the Sokols had the best performance and the best outfits.
How long did you stay out there?
Quite a while, because my father had gone out to prepare the Sokols, the West Coast Sokols there, and he had to teach them different calisthenic numbers, and so we were out there quite I don't know.
It was a month, and he composed the numbers that we performed.
So you probably then got to see some of the Olympics.
Oh, yes.
Did you get to mingle with any of the Olympians?
Oh, yes, they
Make
had
any
this
friends?
Olympic village, no security at all like they have now. You could come and go, and they my father had this camera he put on a tripod, and he'd go there and he'd be, pretending like he was taking pictures, and everybody got such a big kick out of it. They thought he was taking their pictures, and we got to talk to, like, the Polish athletes. We could understand them, and they could understand us, just kind of, here and there a word, and so it was very interesting. You just could mingle with them just however we wanted to.
Did you, when you girls perform, would you wear uniforms, I imagine? That...
And we got a medal for it, too.
Red skirts and white blouses that my mother made for all of us.
Did girls back then, did they have jewelry and earrings and...
No, in the circle gym classes, you couldn't wear jewelry.
No jewelry?
No jewelry.
These events, I don't know if I'd asked you previously, these large events that were held, what was the official name of that?
The Sokol Slet, S-L-E-T. It's like a gathering.
Or a festival, sometimes they call it a festival.
And I think you had mentioned they're held every 4 years.
Yes.
Is this something that's still
Yes,
active?
yes. After when the Nazis occupied Czechoslovakia, and they banned the Sokols because it was dangerous to the Nazis, and so then they remained underground, and they then after Czechoslovakia was freed again, then they started the Sokol units, and they still have the festivals every 4 years.
Why was Hitler so afraid of them?
Well, I suppose because they were opposed to the Nazi doctrines.
Do you ever recall of any of them being caught up in the Nazi youth movement?
I don't know, but Benish, that was the president after President Masaryk died, then he went to London, I think, and he worked out of London for the Czechs, and the Sokols and the Czechs are all entwined, more or less work together.
And then now, back to Cedar Rapids, your dad taught. How often would he teach, or what hours would he teach? Did he teach at the Sokol Hall? Or?
Yes.
Every day.
Mondays and Thursdays was women's.
Every day, I think.
Yeah. There were 2 nights that were women's nights and 2 nights that were men's nights, and then Wednesday class was always the senior classes.
And in the afternoon, there were the children.
Mm-hmm. From 4 o'clock on, the classes took place.
And was your dad good with children, do you remember?
Was he what?
Was he good working with children?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He was strict. He was very strict, but they all liked him.
Was there any dues involved to belong
yes.
to the Sokols?
Very.
Well, at the beginning, the children didn't have to pay anything for the children's classes. And later on, wasn't it $3 a
But if
year?
you were a member of the Sokol organization, it didn't cost anything, did it?
But $3 a year to belong to the
okay.
organization.
Did your mother help your dad in teaching
Oh,
classes? Yeah. She was very active too. This was a nice family picture here of your folks in the girls dressed in their. You would have been in the teen group or the junior group?
A junior group, And Vera was in the small girls, wasn't it?
Very nice. What kind of equipment would you use? Was there any equipment at all that, maybe a baton or?
For what?
For doing Sokol.
Well, we worked on the parallel bars, on even parallel bars, the horizontal bar, the flying rings, and then they also had ladders against the wall where you climb up on the ladders just for agility and a balance beam, but not the high one they do now. We had a little bit lower one, and when we had Indian clubs to work with, and we had the dumbbells that we worked with, and what else?
Did you mention hoops?
Not at the beginning. We didn't have hoops at the beginning. Now they have these rhythmic exercises where they use the hoops, but we didn't have that in our classes, did we?
No.
And when they held these classes, would they ever be combined with a social gathering? put on a performance for the,
Well, we had every year we had a exhibit at Wilson High School where we'd learn these special numbers and
It was called Evening of Physical Culture, wasn't it?
and then we'd perform that, and you know, they had a regular audience, and it was a very important night. It was like the culmination of all that we learned during the year.
the Sokol itself, was this mainly to compete, or was this
No,
for
to
anybody?
develop a sound
develop-
mind and a sound
To
body.
develop their body and their
Yes.
mind.
To make good citizens.
And you were telling me that your dad started a summer camp.
Oh, in Center Point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about it? Was
Well, I don't know that there's a. Well,
Was
we
it-
had camping periods where I think the girls were separate and the boys were separate. We'd have a
Oh.
week of camping.
Not
and-
at the same time, though.
No.
Different time of the
No.
summer.
And I don't remember. Well, I think we had a regular schedule during the day where we did exercises and then we'd go swimming. It was at Center Point on the river there.
And flag raising first thing in the morning.
Oh, yes.
And then we'd walk to Center Point for mail.
Yeah, and we'd sing. We'd have song fests, and but it was a fun time. It wasn't too strict. It was just an enjoyable, fun time.
Throughout the year, it was probably very much of a regime, but when you went to camp, it was time to let your hair down and,
Yeah.
and just have fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We used to swim in the river, and my dad would sit in a boat so nobody would get hurt. And
Did you ever have to check yourself for bloodsuckers when you got out of the river?
We used to go looking for bloodsuckers with my dad so we'd go fishing and wear old shoes into the creek because they'd stick to your feet and hated them.
From the camp up in
Yes,
Center
they
Point?
are,
Yeah. You see the top one says 1936 and a bunch of girls sitting on the railing. Are you some of those?
Pardon?
Are you some of the girls that are sitting on the
I
railing?
think so. I can't see from here, but I imagine so.
And then the picture down below, a couple years later, 1938. Well, did you girls eventually help consul,
Yes.
become consulars out
Yes,
there?
we
in the
did.
camp?
and we became adults, yes.
How long do you suppose this camp was in existence? 1938 is the last picture there.
I don't recall. I just don't remember it all because after a while the camping ceased and people who had the private cabins, they would use them. But I don't know if it was after my father passed away that they stopped having the camping sessions for the different classes. I just don't recall.
Yeah, they still had camping because Marita and
Oh, well, I don't remember.
I don't know how long it lasted, though.
Was there a hall that you could gather in?
It was the main lodge, yes. And the kitchen was in there, and then there were bedrooms for the
Cooks.
cooks, uh-huh.
Yeah. There was a picnic every Sunday, wasn't there?
I think so.
Wasn't you telling me, Vera, that you were the physical ed teacher out there?
Well, at one time, the Suckles have this what is it, the BOI,
Board of Directors.
Board of Directors. So each year, we choose a director. So it changes every year.
Did your dad, was he involved with a lot of this construction on the camp out there?
Oh, yes,
So
he was there all the time. He spent a lot of time there working. Mhm.
probably most of his summer months.
I think so.
And you said your mother did the cooking. Was she a good cook?
Oh, yes, very good. Well, she wasn't the only one. There were other volunteers from the organization.
What was some of her dishes that were your favorites?
Gee, I don't remember. Did we have fruit dumplings?
Oh, I was thinking of that. Fruit dumplings and probably goulash and things like that.
Probably.
No pizzas at the time.
No hot dogs or hamburgers either.
We're looking at a brochure here. It says 100th anniversary of the Ladies Educational Society. What was this, Manya? what was this educational society, ladies' educational society?
Macica Szkolska.
Yeah.
Was your mother involved in it?
Yes, she was secretary of the organization for many years. And it's still in existence. And we give scholarships every year to, how many did we give? I think
Last year we gave 8. To students of Czech descent. And they write essays, and then they're judged on those essays who's eligible for the scholarship.
And they have to be involved in some Czech doings, and have to be of Czech descent too.
Very nice. Was your dad the fun type, or was he very serious about everything?
Well,
Both.
he was strict but very fun type, both.
Everybody says he had a good sense of humor, and he was a good singer. He had a good voice, and this one article that I read, it says with his humor and his voice, he could just do anything.
Well, he took part in a lot of Czech plays too, and he also did makeup for the other actors.
Did he drink? Did he like to drink beer?
Sometimes he drank beer, but
On
not
Sunday,
very
I
much.
think he had a bottle of beer on Sunday noon. That was about it.
Can you girls remember Prohibition?
I don't.
That's too young for Prohibition. How about Depression? Any memories stick out, or did Depression not affect you girls like it would some?
No, because we didn't have anything in the first place, so we didn't lose anything. But I remember the man that we rented the house from. He was a local banker, and he lost a lot in the Depression, because I remember him coming over and talking to us, and I don't know, did he lose the house that we were living in?
I think so, because he said our rent would apply to the purchase price, and then during the Depression he lost all, and so we didn't get the house either.
Didn't we pay about $22 a month for rent?
I don't remember what that was.
And it was a nice house.
Did you girls ever go to dances when you?
Well, in the circles each year they had what they call a May dance, and we used to make roses out of
Tissue paper.
tissue paper, yeah, and decorate the hall.
Did
That
you ever
was-
go to dance land, or
Did what?
did you ever go to dance land to dances?
Occasionally. Don't
Yeah,
you remember?
once in a while, I
Dance
think.
land, yeah.
Thornwood? Did you ever go to Thornwood?
Oh, yes, I remember that. Down in Stumptown.
You remember Thornwood?
Oh, yeah.
Vanya?
That was an open pavilion, wasn't it? In Thornwood?
Was what?
Open pavilion?
I don't remember.
I think
that.
so.
What age did you learn how to drive, Vanya?
Well, I got my license at age 14,
14?
and the license cost 25 cents. I remember
At
that.
14? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
How about you, Vera? When did you learn how to drive?
Well, in 1941, my father had to go to Mayo hospitals because he was diagnosed here with some internal problems, and so I went with him, and I hadn't driven before, and he had to stay at the hospital, so I had to drive from the hospital back to the hotel by myself. I never had driven before, and it was December, and it was so cold, and somehow I managed, I guess, so, because I'm still here. And I remember we were at the hotel when Pearl Harbor was attacked. That was just horrible.
1941?
1941, December 7th.
How old would you have been?
I think I was, I don't know, 20, 23, 24. I
So
don't
it would've had
remember.
quite
I never
an-
figured it out.
It would have had quite an impact on you.
Pardon?
You were old enough, it had quite an impact.
Oh,
on you,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Where'd you girls go to high school?
High school?
Mm-hmm.
Wilson High School. That was junior high, and then senior high was Grant.
What year did you graduate, Manya?
34.
Or 34.
Because I graduated 35.
35?
That was a
And,
year behind because I had to take first grade 2 times.
Did either of you go on to college?
Manya
Oh,
did.
okay. You lost a grade way up front. You had to start over in first grade when you.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Cole for a year and a half. But after my dad got sick, we couldn't afford it, so I didn't finish.
Did both of you stay with Sokol?
Oh, yes.
You're active?
We're not active on the gym floor, but we're still with the organization.
We used to teach, have my dad teach, and then after he passed away, we took over his classes. Not the men's, so Joe took the men's, didn't he?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
At a certain age, would you become a senior Sokol, or?
Yes, you're a junior from, I think it's from 14 to 18 years, and then you become a senior.
And I have a notation here, the ORC building.
Oh, the Order of Railway Conductors. That's where I worked.
Is that okay?
That was an insurance. It was the insurance department for the conductors, and it's gone now.
That was at that time back then. That was kind of a dingy neighborhood down on First Street, wasn't it?
It was First Street and First Avenue on the corner there. Now was it Cedar Towers or is there now?
The River Tower. Do you remember the Sunshine Mission?
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
Was that across from the Roosevelt Hotel?
Mm-hmm. The big lighted sign up and way up,
Yeah.
and Jesus Saves. You
That I
remember
don't
the big-
recall.
I kind of remember that.
Huh.
Then later on, there was a fruit market there, wasn't there?
I think so.
Yeah,
What year did your dad pass away?
1943.
And what was the cause of his death?
Colon cancer.
Colon
Or was
cancer?
it colon cancer?
Did he ever smoke?
Very rarely.
Your father, of course, was thought very highly of in the community.
Mm-hmm, yes.
In this picture in the cemetery with the large tombstone, what cemetery is this?
Czech National Cemetery on C Street Southwest.
And the monument itself, very impressive. Was this donated by Sokol people or by businessmen in Cedar Rapids?
Well, it's the two men that started it were Sokol members, Frank Mitwalski, the furrier, and Paul Jerbeck, beer distributor. And the rest of it was donated by the business people downtown.
Who had been all the young children? Would they have been Sokol members standing around?
Some were, and some were from the Czech school
Mm-hmm.
combination.
And down below the lower picture there, it looks like a large flower arrangement. It looks like a large S on it. That would have been.
That's the Suckles emblem.
Mrs. Lapes designed that.
Very nice. Did he keep active right up until
Yes, he did.
To
yes,
his
he
death?
did.
Did they ever replace him?
Pardon?
Was he ever replaced? Did they ever
Well,
find
yes,
a replacement?
Just volunteers, though.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Not a regular instructor like he was.
Well, yes, we did. Barbara.
Oh, for a while, for a
Yes.
couple of years, we had somebody here from the from Czechoslovakia.
Out of high school, your first job?
Well, I first started at Cole College, just went a year and a half. And then after that, I worked at Smulikov's in the credit department. And from there, I went to Dr. Vane, and then to Iowa, I think it's Iowa National now, and then to Western Fraternal. And after I had a family, I didn't work after that.
Okay. In Western Fraternal, what was your duties?
I was in the death claims department.
Did they ever use you as an interpreter?
No, because everybody else that talked Czech and could understand Czech.
And most of your clients were Czech.
A lot of them, yes,
You were telling me that you had a typewriter that you could type the Czech language
Right,
with?
that's right,
Was there anything unusual? Was it just Czech, or could you?
No, it was a regular typewriter, but the uppercase had the Czech letters with the little checks and the long marks on there.
And then what year did you get married?
1947.
And who did you, what was his name? What was your husband's name?
Oh, John Zlatohlavek. In Czech, it's Zlatohlavek.
And where did you meet?
We were next door neighbors.
Oh, really? What was John's occupation?
Well, he was a flight instructor at Hunters Airport, and later on he worked at for Collins. And then Dr. Lippisch was building the Aerodyne. He worked for him, and that was the highlight of his working years. He just loved that.
Did you get all of those photos of that one?
And then after that was built, then he delivered classified information in the at Collins.
What year did your husband John pass away then?
1984.
We're looking at a picture here. Manya, you in a loaf of bread. Could you tell us the story behind this?
Well, at the time, More America was celebrating some Christmas festival, and they had a recipe contest. And someone talked me into entering my rye bread recipe, so I did, and I got second place. I got a Farberware grill and a rotisserie.
In your family, how many children did you have?
I have 2 sons.
What's their names then?
One is John and Mike.
And grandchildren?
I have 3. I have Tom and Joe are John's children, and Sam is Mike's son.
Get all of them, Ellen? What's your boys doing today, Manya?
John, he's the older one. He works for Iowa Precision. And Mike, he's a sergeant in the Linn County Sheriff's Office.
And your grandchildren, I can imagine.
Well, one goes to Kirkwood, and the other one is still in high school. And Sam, he's too young. He's just 3 years old.
Very nice. Vera, what did you do after high school?
I first worked at May's Drugstore. I worked in the office there. And after that, I worked for the Order Railway Conductors in the Actuary Department. And that was it. After that, I got married and didn't work anymore. Oh, yes, I did, because we built a motel, and I worked at the motel.
Okay. And what hotel was this?
It was the Western Corral Motel. It was east of Marion there. Just a small motel.
And how long were you in the hotel business then?
Gee, I think we built it in 1951, but I don't know how long we were there. I just don't. Well, wait a minute. No, I don't remember. I know in 1964 we moved from there and into Marion, and my husband's brother and his family operated the motel, and after that, some other people did. But we still owned it, but we didn't operate it ourselves.
What was your husband's name again?
Leonard.
Leonard?
Leonard.
What year did you get married then?
In 1951.
This picture we're looking at up here, it looks like a wedding of one of
Yes.
your children?
Our son's wedding in 87, I think.
Which son was it?
That was Scott. That was our only son. And those are the rest of them are my 2 daughters and my oldest daughter's 2 boys.
What's your daughter's names?
Susie Herdliska and Patty Albertson.
And then the photo right down below?
That's Patty's.
The next photo down?
Yeah, that's her family. Her husband Greg and her 2 boys Alex and Gabe. They live out in California.
And the next one down there?
Well, that I don't know when that was taken. That must have. That's the one on the left is my grandson. That's my oldest daughter. The one that's sitting next to him. That's her son, and that's Patty then. And at the left is Gabe, Patty's son, and that's my husband, and then me, and then Andy is Susie's oldest son, and then Alex and Patty's husband, Greg.
And what was the occasion here? Is that
That was at our house, and I don't recall really when that was. But that's
like a couple of smaller ones in there.
Now the 2 little ones, this one and that one. Those are my son's 2 daughters, and the one in the front is my son.
In this one up here,
That's my son. Now he's a colonel in the Air Force now, and that's when he took us to the Pentagon. And the two boys are my grandsons, Joe and Andy.
any great-grandchildren?
No, not yet.
Manya, I forgot to ask you, any great-grandchildren?
No.
Your daughters?
My daughter, my younger daughter, is a gynecologist obstetrician in San Jose, California.
Was your children or your grandchildren interested in Sokol?
They never participated, no.
My two sons did for a while.
We lived in Marriott at the time because, you know, we were running the motel, and it just wasn't, just couldn't make it. Our schedule just didn't allow it.
Did either of you ever get back to Linn?
I did.
I didn't. I'm afraid to fly, so I never made it.
My two daughters and I went 1970. 72 we went because there was a Sokol sled there in Vienna, and so we went. The two girls and I did, and we stopped at my cousin. That was the only relative we had left. My cousin and his family. So we visited with them, and
You went back twice.
and then a couple of years later, we went back again when the 4 years later, because the Sokol sled was in Zurich, in Switzerland, and so we went to attend that, and so we went to visit my cousin again, and very interesting.
Very nice. What are you girls doing today?
Well, a lot of things, but I can't tell you what it is. We're busy from morning till night.
You were talking about you were very busy with the Hobie Days that just passed. What did you get involved in? Baking or?
Yes, baking at the Sokol Hall, and then selling them Saturday morning.
Do you have any thing you keep yourself busy with, Vera? That
Oh yes, I have a garden. I have a lot of perennial beds, so I'm working in the garden, and I volunteer at the museum, and whatever comes along.
this picture we're looking at with your costumes, is this a typical Czech costume that the Czech would dress up for at a special event or something?
Well, they used to dress up for all different occasions and holidays, but not so much anymore. There's about 75 different regions that have different costumes, and Vera's is Moravian and mine is Slovak.
My costume was my mother's, that one that Manya wore in that one picture,
Really?
and I'm wearing it now.
Yeah.
And the other one is from my husband's family.
And this was taken at the Czech Museum?
Yes, last year, I believe.
In the gift shop. Oh, it's been longer ago than last year.
Is it?
I think so.
When you girls were growing up, do you ever remember apron dances
I
amongst the
don't.
Czech people?
I remember of them, but the women used to go to the dances. They had to wear apron, but I don't remember anything else about it. Did Mother ever go?
I don't recall. I didn't even know there was such
Oh, yeah.
such an event until Lenore talked about it.
Oh.
Manya and Vera, unless you have any other memories to share with us, the Cedar Rapids History Center, the Linn County Historical Society, would like to thank you very much for sharing your memories with us.
You're
been a
sure
pleasure.
welcome.
Thank you.